You think you understand betrayal, but you haven't seen anything until you witness the quiet, surgical destruction of a life driven by the coldest kind of envy. My best friend and I were inseparable, two halves of a whole. Our lives were so intertwined that our parents communicated through us. This perfect 4-year tenure of constant, dedicated attention ended the day he brought her into our world. Clara, a girl who, to me, was not a person, but a thief who stole my rightful place. I watched him across the cafeteria during that sacred 30-minute lunch break, no longer engaging with me, only glancing over with a mix of pity and guilt. That pity, that casual dismissal, was the precise moment the spark of my jealousy ignited into a calculated, burning rage. I swore then that if I couldn't have his full attention, she certainly couldn't either. The revenge wasn't about winning her. It was about reversing the entire equation of neglect. I decided to take the long road. I began my infiltration not by attacking her, but by quietly befriending his entire social circle. His friends were the gates to her fortress, and I needed the key to unlock their trust. I presented myself as the neutral, sympathetic observer, the guy who'd always been there. Soon I was sharing innocent-sounding gossip about my friend, a slightly exaggerated story about how distant he was, a manufactured concern about his focus. Doubt is the most potent poison, and I learned to administer it in microdoses. I watched with detached fascination as her friends began to subtly turn against him, their protective instincts making them the perfect, unwitting agents of my early sabotage. They created the exact distance I needed to pivot to phase 2. With him isolated, I became her primary emotional source, always available, always awake when he was busy or asleep. I was replacing him in her life, not as a boyfriend yet, but as her undisputed boy best friend, listening to every sob and every doubt. I knew every tear she shed was a nail in his relationship's coffin, and the rush of that control was exponentially more addicting than the friendship I had lost. I was leading two parallel lives, the caring confidant and the cold, plotting schemer. And as I pulled her closer, I knew I was setting the stage for the most destructive, unforgivable lie of my entire life. Because taking his girl wasn't enough, I needed to permanently erase his reputation. With the couple completely separated by the distance I manufactured and me cemented as her sole source of trust, I moved into the final, darkest stage of the emotional plot. I had isolated him and secured her. Now I needed to make him a monster in her eyes. This wasn't a rushed decision. I spent days alone, mapping out the final, necessary lie. It had to be permanent, believable, and shocking enough that she would never, ever look back. A simple disagreement wouldn't work. The stakes had to be life-altering. I began planting the slow, insidious idea that his past distance and his confused anger were actually signs of something profoundly darker. I remember the exact day I struck. She was emotionally exhausted, recounting a particularly messy argument. I leaned in, wearing my mask of deep, caring concern, and I asked her with a low, serious voice, "Clara, I need to ask you, truthfully, have you ever felt truly unsafe with him?" The word unsafe hung in the air, a razor wire dividing her past and future. I then began weaving all the subtle doubts I'd planted and all the normal relationship friction she had told me about into a fabricated narrative of boundary crossing and manipulation. I didn't utter the final, damning words at first. I guided her to the conclusion, letting her own fear and trauma solidify the lie. When she finally voiced the terrifying, manufactured accusation that he had sexually assaulted her, I simply nodded, offered her my shoulder, and let her grief seal his fate. My guilt was a tiny, insignificant flicker. Quickly overwhelmed by the rush of success, I rationalized it. He deserved this for making me feel irrelevant for 4 long years. A life for a life. The breakup was brutal, final, and absolute. He was broken, confused, and utterly lost. I stepped back for a mandated month to let her heal, playing the role of the protective, gentle friend, knowing that patience is the predator's most effective weapon. When I finally made my move, it was swift and sure. A compliment, a shared late-night text, a gentle hand on her shoulder. The flirting was targeted, Exactly what a girl who believed she had escaped a monster needed. She was the one who asked me out. The revenge was emotionally complete. We started dating, and our relationship became instantly and aggressively active, a sharp, bitter contrast to their past. This made me feel victorious, but a bitter residue of my jealousy remained. I was still envious of the 4 years he had with her before me. I realized that winning the girl